This year, 52 AD, the conflict between the Romans and Silures continues. Paul the Apostle completes his second missionary journey, and the Parthians launch their invasion of Armenia. Welcome to the Early Histories, where we will highlight the major events that take place in the Common Era, year by year. Last year, we saw King Caratacus of the Catuvellauni finally being captured by the Romans after 8 years of resistance. The Iberian prince Radamistus invading Armenia and taking the throne from his uncle, and Vologases being crowned as the new king of the Parthian Empire. Last year in Roman Britannia, we saw the governor Publius Astorius Scapula triumphing over the Silures and capturing the rebel king of the Catuvellauni, Caratacus, who was in turn sent to Rome as a captive to be displayed in a military triumph. Unfortunately for Scapula, the Silures have not been subdued and continue their resistance against the Romans. He recognizes the threat that they pose to Roman authority on the island and declares that they need to be exterminated at once to fully pacify the region. In Silurian territory, a large Roman legionary force occupying a local fort is surrounded and attacked. They are only rescued with great difficulty and at a considerable loss. The Silures had been galvanized by Astorius' threats to destroy them, and they begin taking Romans as hostages. But to the glee of the Silures, Governor Scapula suddenly dies, leaving a vacancy in Roman leadership on the island. The Silures continue their raids for the rest of the year, defeating another legion in battle, as Aulus Didius Gallus, an experienced administrator and politician, arrives to take up the office of governor of Britannia with the goal of restoring order. As the year ends on the island, Gallus prepares his coming counterattack. Over in Rome, Emperor Claudius is making preparations for a very ambitious engineering project. He looks towards the Fucine Lake in central Italia with the goal of controlling its water levels. The lake, lacking a natural outlet, frequently floods surrounding areas, causing agricultural and health issues. The plan is to construct a drainage tunnel through Monte Salviano, aiming to divert excess water into the Liri River. A project of this magnitude will surely require tens of thousands of laborers. In approximately this year, the renowned Roman author Pliny the Elder writes his account of the wars against the Germanic tribes in his Bella Germania. Having spent time along the border region in Germania, his experiences are a valuable asset in his writings of the subject. Up until this time, his love of literature has attracted the attention and friendship of other men of letters in the higher ranks, with whom he will establish crucial partnerships to advance his career. Also around the same time, the tutor of young Nero, the philosopher Seneca the Younger, publishes one of his most famous works. The tragedy Agamemnon retells the story of King Agamemnon's return to Mycenae after the Trojan War, where he is murdered by his wife, Clytemnestra, and her lover, Aegisthus, as revenge for his sacrifice of their daughter. The play explores themes of guilt, vengeance, and the destructive cycles of familial violence, emphasizing human passion and moral corruption. Checking back in on Paul the Apostle, who has now completed his second missionary journey. In his first, he visited major sites of the eastern Mediterranean such as Cyprus and Antioch with his companion Barnabas, wherein they preached and intervened in church disputes. His second missionary journey started in 49 AD after leaving the First Apostolic Council in Jerusalem behind. During this second mission, he was joined at times by companions such as Timothy and Silas and Luke the Evangelist. They preached throughout Galatia and founded churches in numerous cities. In the city of Philippi, Paul and Silas were even imprisoned for a time after Paul supposedly cast out a spirit from a slave girl, ruining her owners' profits from her fortune-telling. On this journey, he also wrote his Epistle to the Galatians, in which he defended his apostolic authority and emphasized that salvation comes through faith in Jesus Christ, not through adherence to the Mosaic law, supporting the separation of Christianity and Judaism. He also spent time in other major Greek cities such as Thessalonica and Athens, where he was constantly met with hostility by the local Jewish population because of his upending of the established order and his actions converting many to Christianity. In Corinth, he remained for 18 months and wrote the first and second epistles to the Thessalonians, in which he encouraged the fledgling Christian community to remain steadfast in faith amid persecution and provided clarification and reassurance about the second coming of Christ. Paul eventually left Corinth to visit Ephesus and finally ends up in Antioch. Last year in the Caucasus, we saw the restless and ambitious Iberian prince, Radamistus, invading Armenia with an army provided to him by his father, King Pharasmanes, and capturing his uncle, Mithridates. Radamistus had his uncle killed and usurped the throne of Armenia from him. A rogue Roman commander subsequently invaded the kingdom and ravaged the country in the midst of the turmoil. As a result, the new king of the Parthians, Vologases, believed he had a pretext for war with the throne of Armenia being taken. At the end of the year, he prepared a large army to invade the kingdom. This year, the invasion kicks off with the goal of taking the throne from Radamistus and placing the brother of Vologases on the throne, Tiridates. Radamistus, as a foreign ruler of Armenia, has not had the necessary time to consolidate his rule after the usurpation and damage done by the Romans, so his position is quite tenuous. According to certain Christian traditions, a monumental step is achieved in the pursuit of spreading the religion. One of the former disciples of Jesus, Thomas the Apostle, is said to have reached the subcontinent of India on a missionary journey as part of the Great Commission. Thomas supposedly reaches the Malabar coast, where he begins preaching the gospel. There, he establishes Christian communities among local populations. We will leave this year, 52 AD, with the Romans suffering shameful defeats at the hands of the Silures in Britannia. Paul the Apostle completing his second missionary journey in the eastern Mediterranean, and the Parthians sending an invasion force into the kingdom of Armenia. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to be notified when the next iteration of the early histories will be released. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next year in 53 AD to continue the fascinating stories of the world of antiquity and cover its major events.